When the video games are gone, when the PORN is gone, what happens? Viva la revolution. And the streets will flow red. Hello, everybody. This is Ghost Hunter 385. I am back with the last mission for the human campaign for Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos. Ooh, feel the chills there. Feel the chills. Arthas is about to fall, everybody. Ooh. I get a little excited when we get to see Death Knight soon. It makes me happy somewhat. But anyway, in a world filled with darkness and the sin of Cain stalks the streets. Like the video, subscribe, and bang the bell, and you will not be caught up in the never-ending struggles of the vampire. Now, all things considered here, ladies and gentlemen, my sense of humor aside, I says my sense of humor aside, let's get into today's topic. Now, this topic is the quote-unquote epidemic of male loneliness. Now, I can hear a specific group of women saying, "Oh, men are lonely, poor babies. Maybe if you just upgraded your life and you did better, maybe women would pay attention to you. Oh, and if you're not a creeper or you're this, that, or the other thing, maybe women would pay attention to you." Okay, I'm going to say this flat out right now. If you're a guy who's like 5'1", 5'5", there's nothing you can do besides a very risky surgery to make yourself look taller. And even then, it's still a surgical procedure, and it is risky. But I digress. Upgrading yourself, well, let's see. We say upgrade. Well, you can't really upgrade yourself physically besides hitting the gym. So let's talk about money and wages. And to make a long story short, wages have not kept up with the cost of living. Now, if you go check the information and the infographics, just as an example here, I mean, I might throw one up here if I can find the right one, which I probably won't, but who knows. But the point is that wages have not kept up with the cost of living. And when I say that, I mean 40 years ago, if I was working at the job with the pay that I currently have right now, I would be golden. I'm not going to say how much I make at my full-time job because this is a hobby for me, but I make over $20 an hour. And if this was the 80s, I would be set to buy maybe, well, let's see. Yeah, I could probably buy a 3-bedroom, maybe 2-bathroom house. And with my current pay, I would be set to have not a cushy life, but it'd be a hard life for a few years until I paid down the loan. And if I rented out 2 of the rooms, that would only help. But I digress. That's not the point here. The point here is that wages have not kept up with the cost of living. And the national average, as it stands right now, for the average American is making $90,000 a year, and that is your average net. That's not talking gross income. And according to a lot of, according to most finance people, you need to be clearing $100,000 net to be able to afford a house in the current economy in the United States. And that, for anyone who doesn't know, that means you have to gross at least $125,000 a year. So when you put it into perspective, with inflation, most guys really don't have the money to start a family. And you're like, okay. So why don't they upgrade? Why don't they get a better job, better pay? Well, sadly, the best way to put this is one of the best ways to upgrade your life has been to get a better education. But most men will not go into higher education nowadays. How do I know that? If you've ever stepped on a university campus and just look around and given the treatment of how some guys get, most guys tend to don't even bother going to university, or they tend to walk away when they realize that just their political beliefs will more or less be used against them. It happened to my father when he went to the university that he went to. And, considering a military veteran is a protected status, it's actually kind of sad what happened to him. But getting back onto the subject here, this is just one factor in all of this. Now, the next factor here is the delusion for both men and women. What is the delusion? Well, from the women's side, it's the 50 Shades of Grey mentality, basically, or the woman's romance novel idea. Now, I can understand here some people going, what? What are you talking about? 50 Shades of Grey, it wasn't the greatest thing, but what do you mean? Essentially, a woman dreams of being swept off by her feet by that handsome man who has a lot of money and has a lot of power. It's the woman's delusion, if you will, here. Now, I can say here some people going, okay, that's one example. If you don't believe me, go to your nearest store that sells books, more specifically a bookstore, and look for the woman's romance section, the woman's fiction romance section. And, read a few of those books and tell me, oh, poor Murden. Arthas actually could have saved him. Sadly, he really could have. But he succumbed to Frostmourne's influence and the Lich King's influence, essentially, there. Now, back on the subject here. Pick up a few of those books, read a few of them, and just look how the women in the book act. And also, especially if it's the author's a woman, look how hyper masculine the men are. The men are generally all, at least 5'10" or taller. They're all muscular and fit. Oh, not like Arnold in his prime bodybuilding days, but they look very similar, to say the least, there. And, this is the woman's delusion, the woman's fantasy, that this man is simply going to come out of nowhere, sweep her off her feet, and she's going to ride off into the sunset with this man that looks like this.
A sound plan.
And frankly, that's a very sad joke in and of itself. As for the man's delusion, sadly, beauty is in the eye of the beholder here. So, with beauty being subjective to the person, you could have a girl who's like 5'2", 100 pounds, and she's all around a beanpole. And to some guys, that is to the height of beauty, essentially. Or there are guys who are like, I want a woman who actually doesn't look like a toothpick. She actually has something on her chest, and she actually has something of a butt that they like to, oh, honey, let me have a handful of that, basically. Beauty is subjective to the guy, essentially. Now, there are guys, there are there are guys who have fetished, certain things, like how black men fetishize white women, as an example here. But again, this is just an example. Don't take us too seriously. But I digress. The point is that beauty is subjective to the man. And, what is the guy's delusion? I have to be 6 feet tall, make a 6-figure income, have 6-pack abs, and, I better be packing down south, or otherwise, it's why bother? Now, this attitude is very real, and there are guys who do believe it. Frankly, I'm not someone who believes that. I happen to believe more along the lines that women just stick around for the best deal and then move on when they think the ride is over. Which is, in some cases, where you hear the stories of guys who become successful after breaking up with a girlfriend, breaking up or getting divorced, and you have the women who sit there and say, oh, I had to leave him so he could do that. And frankly, that's a load of horse manure. Frankly, in my opinion. So, that's the woman's delusion. Then there's the man's delusion. So, with that in mind here, is there extremes for this? Yes. And, but we're not going to continue with the delusions. Now, we need to talk about the impact of social media here for a second. What is the social media impact? In a nutshell, it's keeping up with the Kardashians, if you will. That attitude that I have to have this life, I have to look like this, I have to look like that, or it's just not good enough. Now, frankly, this is very much similar to the women who Frankenstein's monster stitched together the perfect guy of their dreams in their head. This is, he's got to make money like Chad. He's got to be good in bed like Tyrone. He's got to be as committed as Ahmed. He's got to be as hardworking as Juan. And he's got to be as brilliant as Steven and caring like Trevor, basically. They just stitch together these qualities together and say, this is my dream man. I want my dream man. And, the thing that's actually really sad here is that the kind of men most women dream of that are just that certain way, it's that 0.000000001% of guys that fit the physical criteria for some women. Essentially. So, in turn here, it's just so much of, you sit there and see on social media women talking, women doing this, women doing that. And a lot of guys are like, marry that? Date that? It's like, why waste my time? because there's that, but there's also the social media, along with just what I just said, that keeping up with the Kardashian kind of thing here. There's also the aspects for that they show on Fresh and Fit and the Whatever podcast. More specifically, Fresh and Fit and the Whatever podcast, they will bring on the most outrageous, most they'll bring on the outrageous, and they'll basically bring on the women who exemplify, the women who do the whole social media thing. Now, do I think this is right? Do I think this is a fair analysis? I do not. Because, frankly, you're, comparing women who you would encounter in, let's say, New York and Los Angeles to the woman who you would meet in, like, a small town in, like, Montana, Idaho, kind of thing, Wyoming. Very, very different story there, basically. And why do they do it? They do it for the outrage view. They do it for the outrage click. They do it for the outrage view. And it also feeds the minds that these are all women. This is something that me and the Emperor agree on wholeheartedly. Ooh, thrust, twist, and pull, honey. Woo. He shanked that boy. But back on to topic here, this is the other social media delusion. Now, frankly, is there any solutions for any of these problems? Well, unless you can dramatically upturn the value of the dollar in the United States, good luck. As for social media, unless there's going to be someone who's willing to shut down social media for the next 20, 30 years, good luck with that happening, considering how many people use it, just for family connections and all that. Good luck getting that to happen. The best answer to this is to get off the phone, get off the computer, go outside, and actually go around and actually talk to people. Talk to somebody at a library, talk to somebody at a grocery store, go to a park, talk to somebody there. Now, heed my warning here. Do you want to know what the end result of this will be? It will be Viva la Revolucion, and the streets will flow red. And why will they flow red? Because when the PORN is gone and the video games stop working, what do you think is gonna happen? It's not gonna be pretty. It's not gonna be fun. And the first people who are gonna get it are going to be the ones who push to make things this way. They will be the first to go. I hate to say that, I really do. Because frankly, I got small kids. And you know what? I don't want them growing up in that kind of world. But I'm going to let this cutscene finish, and we're going to go for the outro. Stick around.
My son, I knew you no longer need to sacrifice for your people. You no longer need to bear the weight of your crown. I've taken care of everything.
What is this? What are you doing, my son?
Succeeding you, father. This kingdom shall fall, and from the ashes shall arise a new order that will shake the very foundations of the world.
The chills of that scene I will never, ever forget here, folks. I remember watching this when I was a lot younger. But in any case, you think this is bad? Wait till things get worse. But in any case, this is Ghost Hunter 385 signing off. I will see everybody in the next video.